No, I like it because don't worry too much about the spirituality part of it because we keep taking over several lives here in India, but we're still not able to understand the whole spirituality bit, which is there very much present in the book. It's not just the spirituality, but I found a lot of very good personal philosophy in the book. And that's one of the things which I find personally remarkable about our friend and my friend Sumit Mullick. I find him at various levels, at various times in our acquaintanceship and then later friendship in life, I found him to be, he's conveyed things sometimes with just one sentence which can be very astute, which can be very insightful, and which can be very teaching, learning. It's very interesting, and he manages to do that. He also manages to find the time to do the kind of work that he does for the government. And उसको बोलेंगे थोड़ा आवाज़ कम करने को? Thank you. Getting disturbed by that. And also puts everything together in terms of sitting down and writing a book. Earlier on, Sumit was telling me how much time, effort he puts into making sure that each and every paragraph of what he writes should mean something. Although it's a story, it may be fictional, it may not be fictional. To me, that's irrelevant. The point is, somebody spends the time sitting down and writing a book, and it's a book which deeply concerns our lives of fellow Indians in India, and that I think is remarkable. So I do know that you will be buying the book. For those of you who don't know his background, he is from Kolkata. Sumit Mullick spent his formative years in Kolkata. He relocated to Mumbai after entering the Indian Administrative Service, and he has published two other books, Seducing Pain, which took him, how many years to write, Sumit? It took him about a year and a half to write. It took me about a year and a half to read through. It's probably one of the most intense books that I've read in my life, and he knows that, but I admire it because it, again, was so many different levels that he was addressing the elements of his thought and his creativity in the book. And his second book, which has got to do with fairy-ish tales, which I haven't yet read. And he has, of course, published this book tonight, which we know as the Unkindest cut. Yep, lovely cover, lovely things inside. And he's now working on his fourth book. Sumit really didn't want to talk too much today, but we're going to ask him to say a few words. Dolly, would you allow him to say a few words? Lovely, Dolly. Thank you, Dolly.
No, thank you, Vinod. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Now, you would have noticed that Vinod has done a wonderful job in introducing all of us, in sort of praising us, elevating us, making us believe that he's talking about somebody else. So I think I'll have to return the favor. The only problem is that it's always difficult to introduce somebody like Vinod, because he's a man of many parts and multiple talents. So you don't really know where to start. Where do I start?
With your book.
With my book?
Yeah, but don't talk about me. Just talk about
No, I've got to talk about you. No.
We got to
start somewhere. One, he is one of the pioneers of advertising. Two is he's been a journalist for the last 30 years. Three, he's the brand ambassador for South
Australia, before we mention any other parts of Australia.
I was going to promote him by saying...
Don't get your hopes up there.
Then four is that, obviously, he's a man of great depth and understanding of literature, man of tremendous charm.
Thank you.
You would have noticed all that. And he got a great fan following and a friend, philosopher and guide to all of us. So thank you, Vinod. Thank you for being such a pillar of support.
Thank you.
And if you're wondering where you could hear his, that lovely voice of his again, you know, that lovely, rich, deep voice. So if you're worried that this is the last time you're going to hear the voice, you can always tune in Rainbow FM. Yeah. That's another one of his parts. He's the founder of FM radio in Bombay.
Lots of them listen to me.
So anyway, I can go on and go on about Vinod.
Let's talk about
the point is, it's not about Vinod tonight. It's more about my book.
Yes.
No, but the point is also, I don't want to talk about the book really also.
I know.
You see, it's customary for authors to read out passages from the book. It's customary for authors to explain the great wisdom inherent in the book. But I'm not going to do that because, one, I'm not very good at reading passages from my own book, nor am I very good at explaining my own book. In fact, to put it frankly, I'm sick and tired of this book, which is perfectly understandable. If you're spending a year and a half, day in and day out, mulling over the book, agonizing over every word, trying to think of new syntaxes and sentences and having to fight with editors, and finally you get it published, you feel relieved. You feel that a great burden has been lifted off. So I'm feeling free today. It's almost, a book launch is almost like pulling the flush. Really. You feel relieved. So you got it out of the system, and now it's the time to move on and start thinking of the next book. And also, I fundamentally believe that writers are not speakers. Writers are writers and speakers are speakers, and never the twain shall meet, nor should they meet. It's not the writer's job to speak. A writer is not supposed to be a showman. You're not supposed to be a circus artist. Anil is here. He puts up a lot of these melas for writers and things where you have to behave like a showman and things, but that's not the writer's job. Somehow it takes away from the dignity of writing. So I will not talk about the book. But I'll talk a little about writing. Writers, I believe, you have to be compelled to write. You've got to be a certain compulsion that makes you want to write. And you've got to stay in solitary splendor. You've got to stay aloof and write. And the problem is that there are not enough readers. The number of readers are going down all the time, even as I speak. And there was, I think, a historical milestone which was crossed last year, where the number of writers actually exceeded the number of readers. It's a sad reflection of our times in which there are more writers than readers. I mean, if you look around the bookstore,
But Sumit, I would take issue with that, if you don't mind me interrupting you. Because, in fact, in India, the readership of novels has been going up quite a bit. And earlier, while you had a bestseller, which was considered a bestseller, was about 25 to 30,000 copies. Then it went up to 50,000 copies. Now, people like Chetan Bhagat, Amish Tripathi, Ashwin Sanghi are selling in lakhs. In fact, Amish Tripathi's 2 books of the Shiva trilogy, the first 2 books, have sold a total of 9 lakh copies. Now, that's an undreamt of number. And the other thing that has happened is that more and more people who would never have written books are coming into it because publishers are in competition with each other, and every foreign publisher has come into this country and is looking for authors. And India, as you know, is now one of the youngest countries in the world. So there's a lot of young readers. Also, our literacy is increasing. So in India, in fact, we are bucking the trend which you see in the West of decline in readership. That's why our newspaper, circulations are going up.
No, I think you more or less proved my point. I think it's probably, I'll just clarify a little more, it's probably the type of books which are being read. So the people that you mentioned, I think that sort of indicates what people are more interested in reading. I mean, here you got books like